Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Rip right field towards the corner.
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. I am sick and getting sicker, Tony. But I'm going to take one for the team and play hurt today.
Tony Kornheiser, me too. Makeup was out of my favorite shade of rouge.
Oh,
Terrible.
poor baby.
Terrible.
Poor you.
By the way, you sound off.
Well, yeah.
You do. You sound off. You sound like Doc Rivers after a game. Totally hoarse.
I know.
You sound miserable.
Like Doc, like Tibbs, and like Charles Barkley during All-Star Weekend. That's always the weekend where Charles has no voice.
Yeah, because on All-Star Weekend, he doesn't bother to sleep.
No, he doesn't.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. And today's episode is Matthew Dellavedova dirty? Are the Bulls putting the squeeze on Tom Thibodeau? And just how close are we to saying that LeBron is the equal of Michael Jordan? But we begin today with last night's Rockets-Warriors game that was characterized not so much by Houston hanging on and avoiding being swept, but by two separate incidents involving star players. First, Steph Curry took a hard fall over the back of Trevor Ariza that kept him out of the game and off the court for 12 minutes. Next, Dwight Howard planted a vicious elbow on Andrew Bogut's head, but was not tossed from the game. Wilbon, should Dwight Howard be suspended for Game 5?
Tony, I think so, because if you just even give him a flagrant one, it accumulates, and it would be his fourth, and he would be automatically suspended.
You mean a flagrant 2? If you
Flagrant
change
2,
it
I'm
to
sorry.
flagrant
Thanks,
2.
Tom. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
So, Tony, you can't throw this kind of elbow. We've seen this. We've had this in these playoffs. You've had it. I'm not saying it was as vicious as the one Ron Artest threw to the head of James Harden some years ago, back when Harden was on OKC, but we saw J.R. Smith get chased for a couple of games. You can't do that. And I know, Tony, it would effectively end any chance that the Rockets have. And I'm not adamant about it. I kind of want to see the series. You can see I'm here in San Francisco. I want to see another game or two. But
We're going to see one.
What do you think? I'm going to see one.
Yeah, you're going to see one.
Do you think Dwight has to go?
Yeah, well, I watched it, and I will tell you that, and I think anybody would believe this, that Bogut was the instigator, Bogut was the antagonist.
Yeah.
And I felt Dwight Howard had within reason, a chance to push back and turn back. But when you see what he did, when you see the malice and the intent of what he did,
and intensity,
then I think that, even though we didn't hit him flush with it, I think that, yes, it becomes on review a flagrant 2, and then he automatically sits down for accumulation. I don't think they have much of a chance, but I'm warned by two things. One thing I'm warned by is that they came back from 3-1 down against the Clippers.
Yeah.
And so they know how to do that. And the second thing I'm warned by is in the first two games in Oakland, they were very close games. They were close games. So I would like to write them off, but I won't completely.
Tony, I thought of you last night because Dwight's often in our news, and I know it makes you roll your eyes, and you're not the only one. But he was such a sympathetic figure after last night's game. A storm in Houston, which has half of Houston underwater today, Tony. He stayed in the Toyota Center with his son and posed for people for pictures and internet. I mean, he could not have been more a civic role model last night. But you have to treat this incident as serious, I think.
I think so. And I think if Houston ends up losing, I actually think it's going to end up on Harden. And I know Harden was great last night. But Harden at the end of Game 2 couldn't get a shot off. And in Game 3, he was bad. He was bad. And he's got to be good for them to win.
That's right. He does, Tom. The Cavaliers have a chance to do tonight what the Warriors couldn't do last night, which is complete a sweep. But the Cavs needed big help from the refs to get to 3-0. Matthew Dellavedova, involved in his third major incident in 5 games, instigated the scuffle that led to Atlanta's best player, Al Horford, getting kicked out of Game 3 in an overtime game. Tony, so 3 times in 5 games is a coincidence for this kid?
So you're asking me, do I think that Dellavedova is a dirty player? Is that what you're asking me?
I guess it amounts to that.
Yeah, I mean, I watch it. I don't think he's dirty. I think he dives on the floor for loose balls all the time. I think he's a small guy. He's a marginal player in the league. And I think that's the way certain guys stay in the league, is that they hustle all the time. I understand that coincidentally he's been involved in some things where he's tangled up with people's legs and he may have overplayed that hand. And I don't think Horford should have been tossed necessarily for what he did. I mean, I don't think it was as bad, for example, as what Howard intended to do. But it's not that I think Dellavedova is dirty. I think that's how guys like that stay in the league. You look around on Cleveland, they got guys who need to stay in the league.
Scrappy guys.
Yeah, that's what they need.
Tony, I believe your point. But I also had two coaches tell me since this incident that Matthew Dellavedova is a dirty blankety blank.
Okay.
And they said, I got video, and if I had time to show you it, I would show you it. And, Tony, I had a player, an ex-player who played more than 10 years in the league, tell me last night, look, we know how to fall. He went after people's knees. And there are people who believe this, Tony, with intensity. Look, to play with Taj Gibson, he scissored his leg and got nothing. Okay? Then he crashes into Kyle Korver, and the same play where he whiplashes his body into Horford. And Horford says, look, you went after my knee. Tony, let me tell you something. Horford's got no priors. He's an angelic figure in this league. Korver has no priors. Tony, there's something here.
Okay.
I
think he's a scrappy player and like a schoolyard kind of player, even though he's from Australia. He's not a schoolyard kid. Also, if I just have 10 seconds here, these series have been terrible so far.
Yeah,
you have a number 1 against a number 2 in both conferences. 3-0. And they both go 3-0. And you say, come on, is this? I had anticipation for this.
Should probably both be 2-1. Hey. If Horford doesn't get kicked out, that's a 2-1 series
I don't
Cleveland.
know. If I have wheels, I'm a bicycle. I don't know.
That'd be great.
Kendrick Perkins, who my co-host once called, and I'm quoting, the most important player in basketball.
I've never called him
the most important player in basketball when he was with Oklahoma City and is now invisible in Cleveland, has a few choice words about his teammate, number 23, LeBron James. When asked how LeBron compares to Michael Jordan, Perkins says, quote, the only thing that he's missing is a couple more championships, and then it's a wrap. Right now, we have arguably the best player to ever play the game. I'm not taking anything away from Jordan, but LeBron is only missing titles. A couple of more titles, that's it, unquote. Wilbon, I assume you would Perk on this one.
Tony, I love Perk. You know that. And if I could debate this today with Perk over a Kir Royale or 2 in San Francisco here, I would. I do love Perk. And see, Perk is not just LeBron's teammates. They go back to when they were, 6 and 7 years old. He's taking up for his boy. I respect that. I don't agree with that opinion. I think that Jordan is greater than LeBron. But I will say this, Tony. What LeBron is doing this playoff series with no Kevin Love, with part-time Kyrie Irving, and when Kyrie Irving's out there is with one leg. This, not Miami, this is the most impressive LeBron has been. Anybody can win with Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade won before LeBron got there. Yeah. What LeBron is doing now is unreal.
These are cast-offs that he's playing with. They're cast-offs, and he's making every one of them better.
Spectacular.
And he's been great. He had this one game, I guess it was game 3, 37 points, 18 rebounds, and 13 assists.
Unreal.
Nobody has those numbers in a playoff game, not even Michael Jordan. They don't. So I'm going to attack this issue head-on because I know your partiality towards Jordan. And I will tell you that I do think LeBron needs at least 4, maybe 5 rings to have this conversation seriously. But I also think that as people get stronger and better and nutrition is better and all of that, I think he's the greatest player who ever lived. I really do. Because he can play every position on the court. He can defend every position on the court. He passes unlike any scorer before him at that size. I think we're looking at a phenomenal player here, and I think the fact that Michael Jordan has 6 rings will prevent this conversation.
Tony, by the way, getting bigger and stronger is interesting because they're getting bigger and stronger undeniably, but none of them can play 82 games. None of them can last. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen played 82 games, rolling out of the bed when they were 35 years old. Well, wait a minute. You're using bigger and stronger to say, wait a minute, these guys are now... They're not as durable as their previous generation.
They may not be as durable. I just think that what we're looking at is the most phenomenal basketball player to this point, which doesn't mean he's more effective.
I think I agree with you. Yeah. I understand that point. Don't make Perk mad at me now. I know
Perk's your boy. You called him the most important player in basketball when he was traded to Oklahoma City.
I love Perk.
And I said, who is he?
The opposing coach, whose life LeBron has made miserable, more than all the other coaches because of the playoffs, Chicago's Tom Thibodeau, is still on the edges of the news. Mark Stein reported yesterday Tibbs supporters fear the Bulls intend to let all the NBA vacancies be filled before letting Tibbs out of his contract. Tony, everybody knows the situation is toxic in Chicago between VP of basketball ops John Paxson and Tibbs, and that the Bulls have no intention of really bringing Tibbs back. So, is it fair or is it foul to hold Tibbs hostage.
You know, it's petty at this point, and you've been saying for like months that Thibodeau was going to be fired at the end of the year. But there's a whisper campaign going on here. Okay, it's not, you know, Tibbs's people are telling other people the Bulls are trying to hose our guy. They're trying to take jobs off the table and hose our guy.
Right.
And then other people are saying, well, Thibodeau doesn't want to be traded because he doesn't want to help the Bulls at all. There's stuff going on behind the scenes. They are probably both at fault. My feeling about this is that Thibodeau is not Scott Brooks. He is going to be in line for most jobs that come open. So both sides ought to shut up, work out an amicable arrangement, and let my people go. You know, what are we doing here?
I agree with you completely, Tony. I was hoping at one point Jerry Reinsdorf, who's always the voice of reason in sports in Chicago, it seems to me. I was hoping that Jerry, the owner of the Bulls still, will come out of the office and just say, you know, you two are going to fix this. I'm going to put you in a room. I'm going to stand here for a while, and we're going to fix this. But that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. As a matter of fact, it's not going to happen. So Tony Tibbs is going to be in line for jobs because he should be. And it doesn't mean the Bulls have to have him if they have a philosophical differences. These are irreconcilable differences.
Then let him go. Then just let the guy go. And if you're so afraid, if you're so afraid that he's going to go to another team and beat you, then keep him.
Then keep him.
You know, shut up already. I agree. Right?
But this has been going on, as you point out. I've been telling you. And then, Tony, it's not about firing necessarily. I just think this isn't going to work. So why keep going on with this marriage? Get the divorce already.
Staying with Chicago, Ray McDonald has been released by the Chicago Bears within 24 hours of being arrested for domestic violence. The 49ers let McDonald go after multiple similar accusations. Nancy Armour writes in USA Today that Roger Goodell should fine the Bears, strip them of draft picks, and suspend the GM and owner for even signing McDonald. Wilbon, are you on board with this?
No. I'm not even on board with signing McDonald, and I'm not on board with that. That's absurd, okay? I was a columnist for 20 years. I'm still allegedly one. That's an absurd position to take for this reason. Is he eligible to play in your league? If he is eligible, then people should be able to sign him. If the league doesn't want to have him eligible, make him ineligible. But you're not going to legislate morality because you, the columnist, are upset with something done. Either he's eligible to play or he isn't.
Yeah, Nancy Armour isn't the only columnist taking this position. Our friend Mike Freeman takes the same position.
It's absurd.
To me, I'm going to reject this particular position because it's going to stifle giving anybody a second chance. It's very easy to look back in hindsight and say this guy's a bum, and he just proved it was a bum, and you could have seen this coming a mile away. Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but you take somebody like Michael Vick, who was given a second chance and seems to have made the most of it. I think the penalty here for the Bears is they made a bad signing. Yeah. And they lost the player. The player can't help them. The player, by the way, is never going to play in the NFL now, ever, and has lost maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. But I don't think to take away draft picks, to suspend GMs,
based on what?
Saying I have an eligible player.
And who's going to decide that? Who does Nancy Armour suggest is going to decide who is ineligible and not for morality?
So,
this is a position that, look, you can object to behavior. But if you're going to legislate morality, you're going to be out of bounds, and your own behavior is going to come under question, and legitimately so.
Let's take a break. When we come back, should Albert Pujols have been quite so chesty about hitting yesterday's game-winning single?
And did Roger Federer get too upset about a kid fan who stepped on the court for a selfie?
You sound really bad.
You know what? Not only do I sound bad, but now I'm angry.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
If you're just joining us, Wilbon is sick and sounds like Doc Rivers, so let's keep grinding down that voice in mail time. I'll get him and read him.
Mail time?
Here we
You
go.
sound like Doc, man.
Did Albert Pujols have a right to feel disrespected when the Padres intentionally walked Mike Trout to get to him?
Does he have the right to? Yes. A guy as great as Albert Pujols, who has done nothing the last couple of years, but still going to the Hall of Fame based on his first, 11 or 12 years alone, Albert Pujols is hitting nothing. Mike Trout is the best player on that team by a lot. Men on first and third, 2 out. They're not trying to set up a double play. They just don't want to pitch to Trout. Pujols gets the hit, and then Tony goes crazy on the opposing dugout, the Padres dugout. What'd you think?
I think that you're reasonable to be afraid of Mike Trout, but you need to be very, very afraid of Albert Pujols in this circumstance, because even though he's only hitting 150 with men on, Mike, this was the 18th walk-off hit of his career. 18th. How many you got? I got 0. How many does Trout have so far? That 18 is second only to David Ortiz among active players.
Tony, but most of those were in the aughts, right? I mean, Pujols been around for a while now. He's not doing that regularly.
Was Roger Federer too upset with French Open security?
No, this is the 3rd time with the French Open having people run onto the court. I understand this kid is thought to be 13, 14, 15 years old, whatever he is. He wants a selfie. Everybody wants a selfie. You should stop doing whatever you're doing to give people selfies. That's the prevailing non-wisdom in the culture. But this tournament director, Tony, he's got to be fired. And no, Federer wasn't strong enough, and he should have suggested this guy get fired for the number of lapses in recent years.
4 words come to mind: Monica Seles and Gunther Parch. Okay, it was at a changeover, and she got stabbed. I'm not saying this kid was going to do that. This happens in European soccer games all the time. People run onto the field. Federer is 100% correct. He can't read intent out of somebody who's charging onto the court. They've got to be. I'm sorry. This guy
should have been fired. He should have been fired already.
Should the Blackhawks, your Blackhawks, be encouraged by their comeback or discouraged by their loss?
Discouraged by the loss, Tony. The Blackhawks, you can't be down 3-0 in game 5 on the road, because you know this opponent is as good as you are, if not a hair better. And so to come out and get just bopped and be down 3, did I love the comeback? Yes, the comeback was just rousing. But then, they make this mistake. I think it was Bickle who had made a bad play. They wind up losing in overtime. And now they're down 3-2. Yeah, game 6 in Chicago. But now they got to win game 7 in Anaheim. Anaheim's every bit as good as the Blackhawks, if not as decorated.
It's a great comeback. They're down 3-0, as you said. They're also down 4-2. They force an overtime, and they lose. And the critical sentence is they lose.
Yeah.
Okay? And in series that are tied 2-2, the loser of game 5 go down 3-2, loses 79% of the time.
Yeah.
So you take nothing from it but the loss, Mike.
I told you, Tony. I told you this is going to be a really hard series. We were going to have to come back from 3-1 down to 3-2 down. The Blackhawks are going to win this series.
Good for you. If you were going to defend the 2 dudes who played this terrible game of tic-tac-toe, how exactly would you do it?
Not only am I not going to defend them, if we get a close-up here, one of these shots, I could be in it. I was standing on the baseline watching this nonsense in Houston.
There's the X in the middle.
You got to make a basket, and then you put an X and we're O down. I wouldn't even turn around to watch it.
The X doesn't block the O's. The X it's like Dopey. What are you doing? And then the O doesn't go for the win. The X doesn't do it again. And the O never goes for the win. These 2 guys, Mike, played tic-tac-toe like bozos. I mean, they don't understand.
Who are you,
Wink Martindale? Win the game.
What are you, Wink Martindale now, play-by-play on tic-tac-toe?
You were there and you didn't watch it?
Tony, with my back to the court, I heard people booing the O guy, and I would not even turn around to see what was happening. The O guy was
beyond belief, although the X guy was bad. The O guy had 3 different passes where he could have won. Enough
you got
email.
a future as an X and O analyst.
Let's take one last break, but still to come, the trainer of American Pharaoh is optimistic about his horse's chances in the Belmont, and a nation exults.
I wouldn't turn around to watch that either. And how proud should Seahawks punter John Ryan be of his performance on American Ninja Warrior?
American Pharaoh could get the Triple Crown for the first time in 30-plus years.
Yeah, sure.
Almost 40 years, maybe, for all I know.
I'm going to dunk at halftime of Game 5, too.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, puncher back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
Throw to the plate, safe at the plate,
right through the World Series.
For the 3rd time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic The bowl season arrives. ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.
Happy time, people. Happy 76th birthday, Brent Musburger. Nobody has ever made a game sound bigger, no matter what the game is, than our friend Brent Musburger. And nobody ever managed to sneak in a point spread more casually and more succinctly than Brent. Not even our friend Al Michaels.
Tony, a Northwestern man. I love Brent. You do too.
Yep.
And long before Brent was on TV, tell people what he did.
Newspaper writer, baby.
Sports writer, baby. That's how he
Absolutely.
started. I read him covering the Bears growing up when I was a kid.
Happy anniversary, Robert Parrish. On this day 28 years ago, you punched Lambier in the face with 23 seconds remaining in the first half. You got to stay in the game. It's easy to suggest this was because everybody hated Bill Lambier, but Bill Lambier was a terrific basketball player, and what Parrish did, 2 punches to the head, should have gotten him thrown out on the spot and for another week.
Instead, I believe it was Jess Kersey who said, "Get up, Bill." I was sitting on the baseline 10 feet away. And Tony, he deserved it for what he had done earlier in that series. He got what it was coming to him.
Happy trails, John Ryan, the Seahawks punter, last seen throwing a touchdown pass on a fake field goal in the NFC Championship game, attempted to go deep in the American Ninja Warrior TV contest last night. He got through the first 2 of 6 obstacles, but quickly failed on the third. Wilbon, how many obstacles do you think you would get through?
None. I didn't even know this show existed. Matthew loves this show. And my man Akbar, who was the host, I was telling him, kids love this, Tony. That's how it's on my radar. Matthew can't get enough.
Never seen it. And I'm glad your man is Akbar. No errors of significance today.
Akbar.
In the words of Hammer, can't touch this. Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Orioles reliever Brian Mattis is appealing his 8-game suspension for a foreign substance on his arm. Does baseball need to start allowing this?
Let the union decide this. If the union thinks this is the way to go, let them do it. After an impressive workout today, sure. Bob Baffert says of American Pharaoh, quote, "If we can keep him like this, we got a great chance," close quote. Go ahead and slurp him up, Tone.
I hope that he wins. It would be great for America at the full classic distance, mile and a half. Juan Pablo Montoya won his second Indy 500. Break it down for us.
Biggest viewing audience since 2011, Tone, is coming back, the Indy 500. Johnny Manziel did not address the media at the end of his first day of Browns OTAs. You okay with that?
Yeah, just play football for a while. You can talk whenever you want to. Last one, the Lightning can close out the Rangers tonight. You think they'll do it?
I'm stubborn. I still think this is going to go 7. I got the Rangers winning.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Check out the podcast on iTunes. Hammer, Tony. He's at the games in Oakland. Hammer, right at
What kind of pants is he wearing?
Not the balloon pants.